Hi everyone, and welcome to the 6th episode of Channeling Hallmark, the podcast where we talk about all the things that make us feel warm and fuzzy, like we do when we pet a nice fluffy dog. I'm your host, Dylan Cashbaugh.
And I'm your other host, Keetin Markey. You know, today is a New Year's resolution check-in. We've been talking a lot about weddings because December is such a big engagement month. But now we're going to check in on if you guys are keeping up with your 2025 New Year's resolution. And we're going to be reviewing the 2021 Hallmark film, A New Year's Resolution, and interviewing someone that I think we are both pretty big fans of, former Survivor contestant and current Milwaukee TV host, Dylan. Drumroll, please. Who are we getting to interview today?
Andrea Boehlke.
Woot, woot, woot.
And yes, big fan. Very excited for that conversation, so stick around for that. But before we get to that, we have a Yogi lemon ginger tea to drink today.
Ooh.
What's it like, Keetin?
Ooh. Well, it's lemony and gingery. It's pretty mellow. It's more mellow than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to kind of smack me in the face a little bit more, but it's supposed to smack me in the gut, right?
Yeah, I would hope for a little more ginger to a nice lemon ginger tea.
Oh, we'll see if you're saying that tomorrow morning.
Oh, I love ginger. Can't have too much ginger.
The digestive tea. So, you know, just keeping things fresh in the new year. To move away from tea, Dylan, let's talk hot cocoa.
Oh, I would so love to talk hot cocoa. Do you want to start or should I?
You start. You start for your hot
All right.
cocoa.
I'm actually very excited about mine. So I said this episode is like petting a dog. Dogs are on my mind right now. And you know what that always makes me think of? What's the history of dog-human relationships? So I did some digging on the internet and found that one of the oldest fossils of a dog with human is the Bone Oberkassel dog, which was a fossil discovered in Germany in 1914 that is dated to around 12,000 BCE. And this is one of the earliest fossils of a human and dog remains together, indicating that they did have a relationship. And what's really interesting about this fossil is that it has osteoarthritis along with some enamel defects and missing teeth and mouth issues that indicate that it actually survived canine distemper as a puppy, which means it probably wouldn't have survived without the help of humans to nurse it along. So 14,000 years ago, humans were already helping dogs because they knew that they were getting a benefit from dogs. So humans and dogs have been friends for 14,000 years. And I think that is a pretty long and beautiful friendship that I'm excited about. And it gives me the warm and fuzzies.
That gives me the warm and fuzzies too. I have a feeling that the fact that we're supposed to be getting some foster puppies this week has spurred on that.
Yes, I have basically nonstop been thinking about dogs. And hopefully by the next podcast, we have a foster puppy because we have been trying to help out because of the fires in Los Angeles, and fostering dogs seems like a great way to help out.
Yeah, so we've been kind of on standby, and we're supposed to get the puppies this week. So more news on that a little in next week's episode.
So what's your hot cocoa?
My hot cocoa. Well, it kind of goes with this week a little bit because we are speaking to Andrea, who was an incredible Survivor player. But my favorite show is finally back for season 3. And it might not be a super Hallmarky show, but Traitors gives me the warm and fuzzies. I think because I love the location in Scotland, when Scotland always brings me the warm and fuzzy. And Alan Cumming, he is just the most delightful frickin' host ever. Also, his fashion, his outfits, they just send me, and they do everything for me, and they bring me so much joy. And his dog Lala, who is an even bigger part of the show every season, and she's starting to match his outfits. I love the gameplay. I love seeing some of my favorite reality television stars. I'm so happy it's back. And if you've never watched Traitors, check it out. It'll bring you joy. It's on Peacock. And Alan Cumming better win the Emmy again this year because he deserves it. I love him.
Keetin, why don't you tell us about the movie we're going to review this week?
Well, as we said, we're checking in with all you guys to see if you've been keeping up on your New Year's resolutions. We're a month into 2025, so the movie A New Year's Resolution seemed like the right right one to review. A New Year's resolution from 2021. On New Year's Eve, Milwaukee morning show producer Kelly decides that her resolution will be to say yes to every social invitation. And of course, it just so happens to coincide with meeting the ever so charming Tom, whom she just keeps running into. But what starts out as a cute and playful winter rom-com gets a little more interesting when the possibility of small-town corruption comes into the picture.
Starring Amy Teagarden as Kelly and Michael Rady as Tom, this Leslie Dimitriades directed Hallmark movie is all about saying yes to life and taking risks. Well, and also about the dangers of corrupt banks. So, in honor of this New Year's theme, Keetin, have you had anything you said yes to this year that past Keetin would have said no to?
You know, I think there's something that we're doing in 2 days, and it's kind of been a theme so far in 2025, and it's taking flight. I've done these bungee workout classes. I did iFly indoor skydiving, and in a couple days, we're going to go up in a hot air balloon, and I am terrified of heights. But I have been finding so much joy in doing these things that I've always been like, that looks like fun, and not like feeling embarrassed about just saying, F it, I'm going to do it. And I'm so excited to go on the hot air balloon, and I hope it doesn't scare the crap out of me.
Transitioning back to a New Year's resolution. Keetin, what did you think about the movie?
I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was very fun. I related a lot with the main character. I also thought they had so much chemistry. Honestly, this was probably, I wrote this in my notes, Tom and the actor who plays Tom. Michael Rady might be my favorite Hallmark man so far.
Oh, wow.
Leading man, yeah. It's, from the movies we reviewed. There's something about him that is so Midwest. It's so charming. It's very familiar to me. Like he feels like an Italian Chicago guy. I always thought I'd end up with a guy like that, and I ended up with you. But
I mean, I did write down, I want to be his friend.
Don't
because
you?
he just gives these vibes of warm and caring and nice. I don't know if I'd say there's the hunky attraction factor that oftentimes romantic leading men have, but definitely has the sweetness. Really enjoyed his whole vibe.
He's a cutie and a charmer. I don't know. I loved him. And I also felt like the chemistry between him and Amy was really, really sweet and good. And I felt like it grew. Like it felt like a very natural progression of their relationship over this kind of month-long story that we were watching.
Yeah. So we watched this movie twice. On the second time, I really noticed, too, that I appreciate the way they set up his character from the beginning. He is already someone that says yes to everything, essentially to the point of his own detriment, because he does overdo it. But he was that nice opposite to...
The foil.
Yes, the foil to Kelly, which I appreciated.
Yes. And honestly, Kelly... I liked her and I related a lot with her, but she said her birthday was February 8th. This girl is not an Aquarius. Let me tell you, she is not quirky enough to be an Aquarius. As an Aquarius whose birthday is February 13th and who is also a television producer, I did not get that vibe from her at all. But I digress. This is my other thing. So I know like the whole kind of catalyst of this movie was that she is like her New Year's resolution is she's going to say yes to every social engagement she receives, right? I think there's a lot of problems with this resolution. One, what if you get invited to multiple events on one night? Two, what if you have work commitments? I don't know. I just feel like this is, and also to do a New Year's resolution that you're only going to commit to for a month. That's pretty weak in my opinion.
Yeah, while I understand the intention behind this resolution, I don't know if it's one that I would recommend people do, because I really think you're gonna run into some issues if you just say yes to every social invitation.
Although I just realized I was like, this is a pretty weak resolution, and my resolution was to do dry January, and that's only for a month, so...
That's true.
Yeah, pretty weak. But also January is probably the best month to be like, I'm going to say yes to everything, because honestly, in January, everyone's over kind of doing social stuff from the holidays. So there's a lot less social stuff.
That's true.
You know what? I want to point out the one of my favorite scenes in this, and I love a good themed party. The Great Gatsby party, man. She's quoting Great Gatsby. People aren't getting it. I know that's one of your favorite books. I love kind of that era, that fashion. It was fun to kind of see people dress up.
Like I said that he gave me vibes of I want to be his friend. But honestly, like I want to be her friend too. I mean, she's into board games. She's into The Great Gatsby. She reads. Like that. Those are cool things. I feel like she channels Hallmark in her life, you know?
I think they both do in a way. Like, and I think that's why we really liked them as characters, because they do channel a lot of Hallmark, and they're just sweet people. I love that he got her like the sorry board game when he was apologizing to her. I was like, that's really freaking cute. I also, one of my favorite montage, it was kind of a montage scene, is when they went to the speed dating situation, and like his friend kind of does a speed date with her, and her friend does a speed date with him, and then like basically interviewing them to date their friend. And I don't know. I felt like this was a well-written movie. It was very fun. Like I never was like, ugh, that was a stupid line, or ugh. And coming off of last week's review, this movie was like night and day all across the board.
Yeah, that's not a fair comparison. But I will say this Hallmark movie had something to it that I have not seen another Hallmark movie that really leveled it up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the corruption and the local corporate intrigue. Oh my God. I loved that plot line. I want more of that. It made me so excited to just, this is a really fun, happy rom-com. And then boom, 39 minutes in, the bank is doing some shady stuff. Let's dig into that. Yeah, here we go. I loved that.
I feel like you're going to love it when we get into the Hallmark mystery movies.
Oh my God, I'm so ready for that. I think I do have a soft spot, though, for stories about local corruption, because it's such an underrated thing. If you're interested in stories about local corruption.
Because your dad wrote 2 books about it.
I might recommend the book None So Blind by this guy named Bruce Cashbaugh. You should check it out. It's honestly, I really enjoyed it. But no, I did really, it added another layer to this movie. Because, what happens if the person that you're dating, you're a reporter, and that person's company may be corrupt? What do you do?
Drama.
So much drama.
Drama. You force him to quit his job and come on the news and be your inside man.
No, he did the right thing because he has a good heart.
And he's a cutie patootie. And then they end up moving to Chicago together, both following their dreams and saying yes to life. I love Hallmark.
I do too. This honestly, and that's the thing, I think this movie, especially with that element of corruption, really did to me kind of embody what it is to be a Hallmark movie, because it's even in the face of adversity and corruption and evil, there's hope. You feel like the world is going to be a better place. The world feels simple. You say yes to life and follow your dreams. That's all you need to worry about. And I appreciated that this movie captured that.
I agree.
There was one scene, though, that did bother me a little bit.
Tell me.
And that is the quote-unquote race scene.
Oh, yes.
I don't know what this obstacle course was, but it truly felt like the kind of...
It was a budget-friendly obstacle course is what it was.
It was basically the type of obstacles you would find on a playground, like not even like a big playground, but like a middle school small playground. I think they literally just went down a slide at one point, but it was the weirdest race because 2 people could run it at once, as in only 2. I don't know how you're going to have a race where you just have 2 people run it and then 2 people run it and then 2 people run it. Like, how many people were doing this race? Now, to be fair, it did take them probably a whole 16 seconds to complete this race, which is another concern I have with this race. But as someone who has done a lot of races, including some obstacle races, I did not believe this for a moment.
Speaking of concerns with some of these events that she did or things that she said yes to, she said yes to the polar bear plunge because her friend told her to. Not only did her friend not wear a swimsuit, like it sounded like they promised each other, I don't even know if her friend went in because our poor girl, Kelly dunks her head fully in. Nobody else went all the way in except Kelly. So she goes in the water, she comes out, and like I'm just like, where did her friend go? Her friend is not even wet. I don't even think. Her hair is dry. Her hat is dry. Where our girl, she dunked her hat under water. I don't even know why she kept it on her head.
There's strong evidence to support that her friend never joined in the plunge.
Yeah. They didn't want to give her the wet bump that day from SAG. So
I feel like we've covered everything we really need to. Keetin, how many marshmallows would you give this?
I'm going to give this 7 marshmallows. One, because the chemistry between these two was so cute, and I like them both individually as well. It seemed like a really realistic relationship journey that they took us on. It didn't feel like, too rushed or too overly romanticized. And also the corruption and standing up to the man and doing the right thing. So yeah, I'd give it 7 marshmallows.
So do you think the corruption made it more or less soft and squishy?
I think the corruption and fighting the corruption made it feel more soft and squishy, because I think there's something about choosing right over wrong and fighting against the wrong that makes things feel more warm and fuzzy and gives me hope for the world.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to give this 8 marshmallows.
Wow.
I know it's
Is
kind
this your
of a
highest
lot.
rated?
No, that's the same thing that I rated Love at First Dance. But this felt very similar to me in that it really did make me feel warm and cozy throughout. I think partially just because both of these characters were people that I really enjoyed watching. I don't know if I would necessarily say they had the most chemistry, but I did want to be both of their friends. So I just enjoyed spending time with them. And then you do add in that corporate corruption, and it just makes it so exciting too, where I loved it. Board games, books, 8 marshmallows, soft and squishy.
Love it. So Dylan, I have to ask you, do you think saying yes all the time is good for you, or is it something that might lead to bad things?
That's a tricky question in some ways, because I do acknowledge that trying things is good, but I think the mentality of just say yes to things is actually a pretty unhealthy way to live. I think you need to be able to set boundaries in life. Actually, I think a lot of people could benefit from saying no more. Sometimes, maybe it's like, hey, you want to go out for a beer? No, I know that's not going to be good for me. Saying yes to life can be a great thing, but you have to be selective with what you say yes to. You can't just say yes to everything, because that's not going to lead to good things. That's going to lead to unhealthy choices. And having boundaries in life, I think, is going to create a much better balance in your life than just saying yes and overdoing it.
Thank you for coming to Dylan Cashbaw's TED Talk today. That was our review of a New Year's resolution. And next, we get to talk to an amazing person who actually does work in Milwaukee television, as well as a host for a number of things around the country. And she's one of my favorite Survivor players ever, Miss Andrea Boehlke. Stay tuned.
Our guest on the podcast today is Andrea Boehlke, who first appeared on Survivor at age 21 and was so loved that she came back 2 more times to play and became known as one of the legends of the game. After being a national TV star and entertainment host, though, you then chose to go back to your hometown in Wisconsin, where you now continue to work as a host on Milwaukee TV. One of our favorite Hallmark movie tropes is moving from the big city back to your smaller hometown and finding true happiness. Now, I know Milwaukee isn't exactly a small town, but do you think that embracing your hometown can be a recipe for finding joy in life?
Yeah, I do. It's kind of funny. I feel like my life is a Hallmark movie because I did exactly that. I went to the big city, New York City, for 10 years and then came back, and now I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, just like this movie. And I am happier than ever. So it is kind of crazy. It's very true that you kind of have to find what makes you happy. And sometimes you think it's going to be the big city, the huge job. And then you find that coming home, being closer to family, still working in the field you want to work, but maybe on a smaller scale, might bring you more happiness.
I love that. Speaking of that, I know a lot of people do know you from Survivor, but you've kind of been I know you were into the arts when you were younger. Survivor came along, but then you've been a host on huge things. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm in Wisconsin with nobody in my family being in the entertainment industry, but I was always very outgoing, loved performing. I was the kid who on home videos would push my cousins out of the way so I could be on camera. I'm not proud of that. But that was kind of the vibe. But then growing up, I was always in theater. I went to a school in Wisconsin called Stevens Point for theater and did student television. And then one winter, I didn't get into the play that I really wanted to be in my college. And that's when my mom said, you should apply for Survivor, because my parents loved Survivor. They both had applied. And I said, Mom, that's so different. I mean, being on a reality show is not really the career path I want. Because at that time, it was very much, if you did reality TV, your acting career was over. And that's what the main casting director at Survivor had told me. She said, if you do Survivor, it's going to kill your acting career. But at that time, I was like, you know what? I also feel like this is a really awesome opportunity. And so that's when I agreed to do Survivor, and then did Survivor 2 more times, and then kind of leaned more into TV hosting over acting. But yeah, a lot. It's been a lot. I feel like, I mean, I'm 35, but I feel like I've like lived a few lifetimes.
For sure. And like some of the, tell us about some of the places. I know you've hosted for People. You do the ball drop still every year. I know you have like a local Wisconsin show, and I know you also do stuff for the Green Bay Packers. Tell us a little bit about a few of the things that you do host for, you have hosted for.
Yeah. So in the past, when I was in New York, I worked for People magazine for 8 years. So I did the celebrity interview circuit, which I've seen you at a red carpet, Keetin. Yeah. I forgot which one, but I think the SAG Awards.
Yeah.
But we did like a morning show. And so I've interviewed thousands of celebrities, and I got to go to the Oscars, the Emmys, SAG Awards, the Grammys, all of those, interviewing Brad Pitt, J-Lo, Robert De Niro. And it's just so funny because I did all of that, and now I'm back in Milwaukee, and I do love my life, but there was kind of a reality check when I was struggling for money a little bit, and I was then working on the farm with my dad, and I was like, honestly, like shoveling manure. And I was thinking, I'm like, I used to interview Robert De Niro on a carpet, and now I'm shoveling manure. This is crazy. But I've had some good, like, humbling moments where I'm like back to my roots, you know? But so I did People for 8 years. I was working for Good Morning America for a few years as a kind of a correspondent, telling, you know, the things to watch for the weekend. And then a bunch of odd jobs. I've done the ball drop hosting in Times Square for New Year's Eve. Sorry, my voice. As a TV host, it's not great that my voice goes in and out of being lost. But so I've done that job for 11 years. And now I work for a morning show in Milwaukee called The Morning Blend. I'm a correspondent for them. And then I host a show called Discover Wisconsin, where I travel around the state and check out cool things to do in Wisconsin.
All right, then while we're on that subject, just to briefly touch on the movie A New Year's Resolution, how does real world Milwaukee TV compare to the Hallmark world Milwaukee TV?
Okay, honestly, it was really spot on. I really think they did a lot of really great research. Maybe they consulted with somebody in Milwaukee. I'm sure they did. But I felt like it was really similar. Something like the polar plunge, you know, that is something that I probably would do for TV. The runs, the small Milwaukee vibe, the topics that they talk about, it all was really, really spot on. I was impressed.
I have to ask a question, because this is something that I felt like that guy, the actor, he was so Midwest. He felt so, the leading guy in it felt such like a guy you'd either find like in Chicago or Wisconsin. I don't know if you felt like the same, because I'm originally from Chicago, but did you feel like our two leads kind of represented people who might be from that area?
I think so. However, when I saw that man on my screen, I thought, I've never seen a guy like that in Milwaukee. But he does give Chicago vibes.
Right.
And he actually does come across very Midwest.
Yeah. Okay.
Very, very wholesome. They tied in the family element of it, very respectful. Something that I think is a cliche, but it's just so true, is people from the Midwest are so nice. And I love New York. I'm not going to talk anything bad about New York, but New York's harsh. People will not really give you the shirt off their back. They are on a mission to go to their job. But in Milwaukee, I've noticed when I'm throwing events or needing some help and I'm willing to pay people, I'll say, oh, hey, could you do this favor and I'll pay you? They'll say, no, I'll just do it. And it's always so shocking. People here are so nice. It's amazing because if you need any help or anything, people will just go out of their way to help you because I guess it makes them feel good, or they just like, that's just the vibe here.
I love that.
Do you feel like you have more of an impact on community by being a part of Milwaukee TV scene rather than this huge national TV scene that you've been a part of in the past?
I really do. I think it was a tough transition just going from doing all this glitz and glam, high profile people and interviews, and then transitioning to local TV. At first, it kind of was okay. I used to be at the Emmys, and now I'm at the Milwaukee Zoo or at the dentist. Not that I ever felt that it wasn't important, but I do feel like it makes a bigger impact when I go to these small businesses and highlight them, and I get stories. And a lot of the people that come on the show, either Morning Blend or Discover Wisconsin, it can really boost their small business. Mm-hmm. And they're usually really nervous, and it's really sweet to kind of guide them through it. And then they do the interview, and then they go, oh my gosh, you made me feel so comfortable. And I was so nervous, but that I felt really good about that. And then their whole family watches. Whereas a lot of the stuff I was doing in New York, it is a little bit more transactional, I felt, especially with celebrities. And, sometimes when you're reporting on celebrity news and you're talking about drama, whether that be the housewives or anything, that can be escapism for people. But sometimes it felt like, what am I doing when I'm reporting on this news, but it's not really benefiting society? Which, you can make an argument that some people, that is their escapism that they need. But I just feel like helping people out in Wisconsin and highlighting their festival or their small business, I just noticed a more personal impact, and I really, really enjoy it.
I love that.
My mom was actually a local news anchor in Indiana. And I know she's talked about how it was cool to really see the impact that you have with people, because the things that you're reporting on are the most important things in the world to these people. I think it's really cool that you're doing things like that now and having such a big impact on your community that you care about.
Yeah, I do really love Wisconsin, which I'm also a lot happier now, I think, moving back. And when I first moved back, I was in a bad headspace, so I probably didn't appreciate it as much. But now that I'm in a really good headspace, I love working for Discover Wisconsin. I love finding these businesses where they don't, to them, being on TV, being on Discover Wisconsin or TMJ4, the Morning Blend, is a really big deal. And it means a lot to them. Whereas a celebrity, it's their 15th interview of the day. And again, I'm not like celebrities are great. It's just a different thing, but I'm really happy I'm finding joy in it.
I love that. Now, to take it back to kind of what initially got you started on this journey, I know you said your parents were the ones who encouraged you to apply for Survivor initially. How has kind of Survivor shaped the trajectory of your career and of your life? I know you've played 3 times. Let us know a little bit about how that has affected you.
Well, I think it really shaped my career and the path in a good way. Like I said before, I was told that, being on reality TV will kill your acting career. But I think that's a good thing because I think I'm like a above average actor, but I'm not anything exceptional. I think the moment I'm also a person where I'm I love hard truths, right? And I love when you can, it might take years, but you get to a point where you go, you know what? I'm not that great at this. Or you go, oh, you know what? I don't love it that much. So I kind of realized, okay, I'm not as passionate about this as I thought I was. And when I did Survivor, there were a few hosting gigs that came my way, which that wasn't even really an avenue I was exploring. But once I started doing that, it felt like a more natural fit where I'm a very curious person and I love asking questions and I'm good at just being myself. I feel like I'm a lot better at being myself than creating some really crazy character. And so I just felt like, TV hosting makes a lot more sense. And I feel more confident in it. I still do some acting, but I feel like it's nice to kind of make that a side thing, that if it's the right role, I'll still do it. But I think for me, TV hosting, I just love a lot more. So I think Survivor kind of pushed me into that direction, which I'm really grateful for.
Now, if a Hallmark movie ever came calling, you're living living a Hallmark life. Do you think you'd ever do a Hallmark movie?
Okay, watching the Hallmark movies, I think my acting caliber could definitely be in those. And I'm not saying they're great actors, but I'm saying I think sometimes with Hallmark movies, it's just a little bit more natural.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I was watching that movie and I felt like I could step on as a, a local TV host, and it could be a very authentic acting role for me. So that actually I think would be the niche acting that I'm looking for. How do we set it up?
We got to manifest this right now. We got to manifest
There's so
this
many
for
Hallmark
you.
movies. I think I just don't know. Like, I have an agent that will send me out for like small parts. Usually a lot of times they're very similar to who I am. It'll be like a TV host.
When I was watching this movie, I was like, why is this not Andrea?
I was watching that movie and I'm like, wait, I feel like I could easily do this. You know?
Absolutely.
Okay. We got to figure it out.
We will. We're going to make this happen.
Because then it could be a small part. I'm not picky. It could literally be like I'm a reporter on a show, or it's like a smaller part. And then I go and do it. And then I report back and we do another episode and I explain what it's like being on a Hallmark set.
I like it.
I still don't really have a plan. Sometimes people like to plan or have a 5-year plan or where will you be? And I don't know. I guess I just like, I'm open to anything. And that's how the hosting stuff happened. I'm also a grind. So I think when I was really in New York, in my early 20s, I was just applying for anything on any website. I found jobs on Craigslist. One time I did a job and then the check bounced. Like I was just doing anything. So then eventually when I found a couple hosting gigs, I didn't even know what that really was.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But anytime you watch any show, any YouTube show, if there's any commercial with someone just coming on and saying, these cars are the best cars, that's a host. There's a lot of roles out there if you look for them.
No, for sure.
I mean, I think seeing where you're at now with hosting, obviously you are great at it. You feel very natural. You ask great questions. You really are engaging. When you were getting started, did you turn to Jeff Probst for advice? Because he's successful in it. How did you develop that skill?
Definitely didn't turn to Jeff, but I loved watching Jeff, especially once I got into it more and then playing Game Changers, which was my 3rd season. I was just watching him the whole time and going, wow, he really is not doing any retakes. And you can notice when he pauses, when he knows there could be an edit cut, when like you can see all that stuff, but he comes in and just nails it. He's so impressive. But who did I turn to? I mean, I did some hosting classes, and then I really just learned from the people I was working with. When I got hired at People, I had an amazing co-host. And I always just, my biggest piece of advice for any host is like, look at a host you like, see what they do, from down to the filler words, the transitions, the body language, and you can learn so much from other people and then just really try to emulate that. But I guess I just learned from the people around me mostly.
I love that.
And I'm still learning. There's so many different aspects of hosting, as you know, Keetin.
Yes.
There's, I'm really great at teleprompter naturally. So like that I got down to make that natural. But then it's kind of like, oh, here, come up with a random intro for this business on the spot, make it about 30 seconds and hit this point. Okay, go. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
That's one thing about Jeff that I'm always like, I'm just so shocked by, because I'm like, I know he just sits there and produces in his head. And he's like, he probably has that list of questions that he was given, or he knows the direction tribal council needs to go, but he just kind of takes it. And then he kind of feeds off the people, like, and that kind of hosting where you're just like that natural and keeping I don't know, that blows my mind sometimes when I used to sit and watch tribal councils when I worked on the show. Like, I just like, oh my gosh, this is the most intense interview I've ever seen. And there's 6 people that he's dealing with here. So
yeah, it's a lot. I mean, the best hosts, Jeff's one of the best hosts, I think. You don't really see them working. It's just a lot of preparation that then you have to just let go. And then you're just in the moment and listening. A lot of hosting is listening, really.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure.
You've used hosting, you've used Survivor to build a large audience for yourself where you have a pretty sizable platform. And you've used that to advocate for mental health and try to do a lot of good in the world. What inspired you to do that? And what are some of those things that you now are so passionate about doing to make the world a better place?
I had struggled with mental health for a long time without really realizing it. I think that the statistics, I think it says it takes about 9 years on average for someone to realize the mental health condition that they're living with or dealing with. And some people never figure it out because we're only in our own brains. So you think how you're living your life and how you're feeling reality is how everyone else is until you realize, oh, it's not. And that there could be something wrong. But I think that starting in my late 20s, I started really struggling with depression without really realizing it. I thought everybody was feeling the same thing, that everyone was really nihilistic, that if there was a choice to really be here or not, you'd say, oh, I don't want to be here. And that kind of fueled my sense of humor, which then I got rewarded by that because I've always had a self deprecating, slightly negative sense of humor. And I feel like sometimes when like people that are depressed have a very like kind of like witty sense of humor. But it's not like after a while, it's not like fun anymore. You know, you have to, at some point, you have to want to live and be happy. So I finally had to dig in. It wasn't until maybe my early 30s. I'm 35. I don't think I really got my mental health stuff under control till I was 32. So it really only has been 3 years of feeling better. But it was a lot of, not that we have to go too much into it, but basically my mental health issues came from untreated trauma because when I was a kid, when I was like 15, I was in a really bad accident with my sister and she passed away, but I never got help for it. So I just shoved it all down so far and just lived my life and started thriving with work, with my social life, with everything, that it was all distracting me from the issues within. So that stuff eventually just bubbled up and it's always going to bubble up for everyone. At some point it will bubble up. It might take a decade, 2 decades, 3, but it will bubble up. So I always just kind of think of it as, you know, you have to deal with it at some point or it's going to like haunt you and it's going to like start building into these issues. So my issues were just drinking as a distraction and numbing. So I had like drinking problems and depression. And then finally was like, couldn't do it anymore. Like I hit my like lowest low. I was in Wisconsin, but I hit my lowest low and was about to check myself into a facility. And then, I mean, my story just kind of was like medication really helped, but there's so many different solutions other than medication. But I finally got a handle on my mental health. And then I kind of thought, well, what was it all for? Like, why did I have to struggle with this? And I found this organization that actually started in Wisconsin called NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And so I started being like, well, okay, I went through all these things from grief, eating disorders, addiction, depression, anxiety. Like, how can I help people that maybe have dealt with things like this? And so I found NAMI, and they have a program where you go into high schools and you volunteer and you talk about mental health and your story. And so I started doing that. And that has been pretty great because kids will come up to us after and say, hey, I really struggle with this, or I've been feeling suicidal and I didn't know who to turn to. And then they can go to NAMI, which is this organization that has a lot of free, amazing resources. But basically, my passion for mental health stemmed from my own mental health struggles, which were really, really bad. But I got to a point where now I'm really happy and excited about life. I'm a little bit more positive and optimistic. But it was rough. It was really rough for years.
And it's such a wild thing because I know just like watching you like as first as a fan, then as somebody who worked within the survivor realm, and then as like somebody who was also in the hosting world, I always looked to you and I was like, oh my gosh, like she's on the top of the world. She's one of the best in her game. She's like the Elizabeth Hasselbeck of like our generation, like doing all these incredible
That's so
things.
nice.
No, like literally, I was like, oh my God, if I go up to her at the SAG Awards, will she even know who I am? And it's so wild to me that like you're facing these inner demons while you're doing all these amazing things, or what look like, you know, which were amazing things, but it's so wonderful that you are so open about your struggles, because I think we all see these highlight reels on social media of people's lives. So when somebody is like, hey, this is really what's going on, I think it can really help so many people around. What initially kind of was that jump for you that inspired you to be honest about what you were struggling with and open to help people?
Well, it's what you said basically. It's like you see me doing all this stuff, but deep down I was miserable. So I would go to the Emmys and interview, whoever was there. Or I remember the SAG Awards especially. It was like a really big celebs. It was like Jennifer Aniston, Brad Pitt. Are they getting back together? Are they not? Robert De Niro, all these people. I was on such a high. And then I would come home and I'd be so low and so depressed and just basically like drinking my life away. I had like a really bad alcohol dependency. I was like kind of aware of it, but I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't stop. Like I didn't know how to get out of it. But basically, I guess what pushed me is talking to people and realizing, oh, other people aren't living like this. Like somebody gave me this analogy that really helped me. It was actually my friend, Josh Canfield, who was also on Survivor. But he basically said that because he's not depressed, right? So he told me that someone in his life was, and how they described it was if there was a button you could press where you wouldn't exist and it wouldn't affect your friends or family, would you press it? He's like, that's how the person in his life would describe his depression. When you think of depression, sometimes you think, oh, you can't get out of bed, you can't move. And it's not always like that. Like I had the energy to like push myself to like go to work and really like climb this ladder. And then I would just like drink at night and then I would wake up and do the same thing. But when he gave this analogy to me, my answer was, oh yeah, of course I pressed that button. No questions asked. And then Josh and then the other person we were with, they both said, oh, we wouldn't press the button, Andrea. And I was like, wait, really? They're like, no. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Cause I was just so nihilistic. What's the point? Which I still have a sprinkle of that, I still have a sprinkle of that because I'm like, wait, we're all just like, whatever. I'm not gonna go. We're all marching towards our deaths. You know what I'm saying? But there's always like
we're just realists. It's fine. We're just realists.
There's always gonna be a sprinkle of that. But now I'm a lot more optimistic and positive. But I kind of like that I have a little bit of that edge of like, oh, nothing really matters, which does help me through things. When you get all caught up on Instagram and social media and what if this doesn't do well? What if this fails? It's like nothing really, like as long as you're having fun, no one cares that much, like it's not that serious. We have one life that we can live unless you believe in, past lives and future lives. But basically I realized, oh, I was living like this for, I don't know, 8 years or something. And then what happened was I had like a pretty bad mental health crisis in 2022. Yeah, because I've really only been like feeling happy and stable for like 3 years. But that was like kind of rock bottom where I like every day felt like I was like clawing myself through life. And that's when I actually just made some really tangible goals where I wrote like on a list. Again, I'm always really careful about medication because it does not help everybody. And I'm not someone like that promotes medication at all. But for some people, it really helps. And also I think it's important to not have a stigma around it because if you're going to take medication for any physical ailment, no one would shame you. But then sometimes for any mental ailment, then it's shamed or you feel really embarrassed. But for me, what happened was I wrote a list in my notes app of every person I knew that was on medication and it helped them. And then I started writing down different like facilities that people went to that would help them. Cause I knew it's like I had felt lows I'd never felt before. And there was no like coming up. It was just lower and lower where, without getting like too dark, but it was just like, I was starting to question myself. I'm like, I've hit lows before, but now this is a lower low. And so just like making a list and like and having friends like check in on me and say, hey, are you going to take that step? Are you going to do that? That really helps.
So you mentioned the stigma, and I think we all have those people in our lives that maybe don't take mental health seriously or almost even deny that it is a real thing to worry about. How do you handle communication for mental health? Like, do you have any advice for how to talk about mental health with people?
I think you can just really only share your own experiences and you have to do it in a way that's not forcing it on people. I think with people that aren't open to it, it's just probably because they've never gone through a mental health struggle like that maybe they have it in a way, but not to the point of maybe where you're suffering. And so you have to realize, okay, I'm not going to be upset. I'm going to just know that my feelings and what I'm going through is valid and there are other people that can relate. So you find the next person. Also, learn about it. Like my favorite thing to do is learn about mental health. And it's, you kind of can get a little nerdy with it, but like realizing like what depression comes from, what anxiety comes from, or even I love just researching all the other mental struggles or even different disorders like schizophrenia, bipolar, borderline. Like that's like my favorite thing to do. It's like, look, I'm like telling you, this podcast, your listeners are like, wait, I'm so confused. Like I thought this was like a Hallmark feel good podcast.
This is so helpful. I mean, because this is the thing, like, I feel like a lot of people make New Year's resolutions based off of, not feeling a negative way that they had been feeling in the years past. And they're like, oh, if I make this New Year's resolution, I'll change. 2025 is going to be great. And I feel like so many people struggle with mental health. And if you don't have those tools and you're not willing to talk about or even be curious about, figuring it out, they're not going to be able to make things better. If you promise, oh, I'm going to go to the gym every day or 5 days a week, that's not going to make you feel completely better if you don't really know what's going on in here. Endorphins are great. Love me some endorphins, but
it's hard for everyone. There's a different thing for everybody. Like for me, medication works. However, some people changing your lifestyle, changing what you're eating, there really is a lot of science behind it. Getting more sun, get sleep. I'm telling you, sleep is major and people overlook it, but you should be getting ideally 8 hours of sleep. But in order to get 8, you got to be in bed for like 10. I know that's impossible, but I'm telling you, if you're really struggling and you get bad sleep, maybe track your sleep because you might only be getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep. Your brain can't even restore itself. There's something about like, if you're really trying to like start fresh and work on your mental health, this is what I did before I went to like more extreme measures. And it did help initially too. But basically it's like, if you stop drinking and you get 8 to 9 hours of sleep and you are drinking a gallon of water and you are trying to meditate or pray, whatever works for you every day, and you are eating as healthy as you can to get all of your nutrients. And it doesn't have to be like, I don't have to be on like a diet. It's just like making sure you're getting all your nutrients. If you are getting some movement in every day, that could actually like fix the things you're dealing with. But then if you're still dealing with stuff, then it may be therapy, medication, group therapy. There's a lot of different options, which I think sometimes people don't know that these options exist, but you have to like not get discouraged. And if one doesn't work, move on to the next one,
So we can just take that list and publish it as Andrea's quick tips for a happier and healthier life.
Well, I know you'll get like this is the thing though. It's so hard talking about mental health because some people will say, well, you can't just get sleep and eat healthy and feel better. And like, sometimes that's true. And I'm recognizing that. Like for me, I did all those things and I still was struggling. So then I went to like a more extreme measure, but sometimes you can just work on like your routine and your schedule. Also getting off your phone. That is like so detrimental to your mental health if you're glued to your phone. And I am guilty of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, to pivot, so we do a thing we call our hot cocoa every week, where we share basically something that has brought us a lot of joy or really kind of a positive thing in our life. Do you have any hot cocoa from the last week or month or anything that you'd like to share?
Okay, so I guess my hot cocoa it's going to sound so corny, but when I moved from New York to Milwaukee, I had 0 friends. I think maybe I had 1 friend, but I was in that like dark spot. So I wasn't going out and meeting anybody. And I went out last night and I went to like a friend's house and it was like a group of us. And I had this moment where I was looking around and I thought, I'm like, wow, I have a group of friends now. And I have actually a lot of friends in Milwaukee now, maybe too many friends, but I really have been able to just grow a community here. And even last night, we were just sitting around. We're planning this. I still have my Survivor roots sometimes come out. We're planning this Survivor Milwaukee game, which is going to be an LRG. And we're planning it out and we're having so much fun. And we were like prepping challenges and talking about like the challenges where you're holding your breath underwater. And so just for fun, we're like, how long can we hold our breath? So we all in this room, there's like 6 or 7 of us, just did like a breath holding competition. And I was looking around at all of us just silent, holding our breaths. And I busted out laughing. I was like the first one out because I'm like, this is so weird that we're doing this on a Saturday night. Like we were literally just all holding our breath, seeing how long we could last. Should we do it now?
I mean, if Andrea's challenging me in a Survivor challenge, I might have to say, right?
Worst challenge for a podcast.
For a podcast,
We're all just
really
silent
engaging
for a minute.
audio there. Yeah.
You guys sound like our type of people.
Yeah, it was so fun. And I felt really happy and I guess warm and fuzzy, as you say. And I'm Keetin, I'm not really a warm and fuzzy person. So I like when I feel warm and fuzzy because I'm like, oh wow, I can be a little warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. I think like us people who maybe are like, I'm much more of a realist now. Some people might say pessimistic, but I think that's why I'm drawn to warm and fuzzy things, because it brings me to a space where I'm like, oh, is this what everybody feels like? Is this that amazing like comfort feeling that people get to just walk through the world with all the time? Oh, I'm drawn to this. This is great. So how can I create this every day for myself just so I can feel like a normal person?
Wait,
I know that's wild.
No, that's exactly, I relate to that so much because I am like clinically diagnosed with depression, right?
Mhm.
So I think that obviously colors it, but I am a realist through and through. I've always been a little bit like pessimistic, but in like a funny way. But I have learned, and I fought it for so long. But I have learned if you allow yourself to be open to warm and fuzzy things and thinking, wow, wait, what could we create? Wow, what if this is possible? It really can come true. It's manifestation. It's letting yourself feel that way. And eventually you kind of adopt that attitude about life. And I'm slowly getting there. I'll always hang on to the little bit of realism that I'll always have. But I have noticed just in the last couple of years, kind of changing my perspective on all that. Because I always was a little bit like that, like how you're explaining.
Yeah. It's like warm and cozy is my drug now.
Yeah. I love so coffee shops. That's where I get my like little like warm and fuzzy, cozy, adorable vibe. And I love coffee shops and checking out coffee shops and meeting friends at coffee shops, meeting guys at coffee shops. Like it's just like totally my jam. So that's like where I get the most like warm and cozy.
There's another hot cocoa from Andrea, guys. Coffee shops.
Yeah.
Andrea, tell us about some of the things that you have coming up that you can share with the audience if they want to follow, whether it's your mental health journey, your journey with Survivor, your hosting journey. What are some things that you have coming up?
So something I'm doing is a big charity event, which is a mix of Survivor and mental health. So we're going to do a premiere for season 48. And it's going to be in Milwaukee. So if you're listening from Midwest area or you want to take a trip to Milwaukee, it's going to be a big event where we're going to raise money for NAMI and we're going to watch the season premiere of season 48 of Survivor. There's going to be a performance. There's a Survivor player that's coming. I can say Ben. Do you remember him?
Yes.
He's going to be performing. We have the winner of the last season coming. A couple people from 47 are coming. So like current players are going to be there. And it's going to be really, really fun. There's going to be a raffle and you could win a 30-minute Zoom with Jeff. So CBS donated
huge.
that.
That's
which
huge.
I was surprised. I asked for a 5-minute Zoom and that was like a tall, I was like, hey, this probably can't happen, but do you think you would donate like a 5-minute Zoom with Jeff? Like thinking I would never get it. And then they came back saying a 30-minute Zoom with Jeff. That's so much time. That's more time than the contestants get with Jeff.
I mean, that's long enough for a podcast interview. So we should go enter the raffle.
We need to enter the raffle.
And then we can get Jeff on the podcast. That way.
We're going to enter the raffle now.
No, I'm so impressed that he is donating 30 minutes of his time. And that's going to be a great way to raise money for NAMI. I work for I said it before, but their program where we go into schools and they're just like so under budget that because we do like, we'll have like candy, like Starburst, where we throw out if people will like raise their hand or if they participate. And high schoolers love Starburst. They love like catching Starburst out of the air. So it actually, like, it sounds like I'm teaching elementary school, but it's actually high school. They love it. But NAMI right now is so underfunded with those programs that they don't even have money for Starburst. So I think if I can raise some thousands of dollars for NAMI, like that'll be really great. And they're so stoked that we're doing this. So that event's going to be really fun. I feel like I've toured every venue in Milwaukee at this point. I'm now officially an event planner. It's so stressful.
That's amazing. Because you also do photography with your sister, right? Like, because she does wedding photography.
Yeah. I have a business with my sister called Boehlke Media, and we film weddings, we photograph weddings, we do senior pictures, family photos, we do like corporate videos, we do a lot of stuff. But yeah, if anyone listening is getting married and want to see my rates, just like hit me up.
Well, I have a question I just have to ask you, because I know you've been doing a lot of stuff with CBS. Season 50 is coming up. Is there a chance you'd ever go back?
So it's not something I think about because I'm a realist and I don't think that they would ask me.
Mhm.
So, and I'm being just totally serious. Like whenever I say that, people go, "Come on, Andrea, you're a legend." I'm like, no, because I'm looking at it. There's so many players that played in this new era
Yeah.
that really deserve to play again. I don't need to play for a fourth time. What am I going to do differently? Let's be so for real. I'm going to go far, pass merge. I'm going to be great at the challenges, and then I'll get blindsided. I'm not even kidding. I'm going to play the exact same way.
I guess as a fan, is there anyone you want to see then?
Yeah, I would love to see like Cassidy. Like I feel like I saw a lot of me and Cassidy. Like I relate to her. She also had lost a sister, and so it's like she got to play once, and like she should play again. Jessie from that season was so good. Even going back to see the 41, you could get like Ricard or Shan. Everyone wants to see Carolyn again. I mean, even on this last season, Genevieve should play again. There's so many people. Look, if they ask me, I probably would say yes. I'm probably not going to say, oh, there's other people that should play before me. So there's the Andrea that's really competitive and really wants to win. And I probably would try to mix things up and do a different strategy. And it would be kind of cool to come on Survivor as a mid-30s because I'm a different person than I was at 21 and 23. I'm not that person. It's kind of cringe to go back and watch that stuff. I think I'm actually in way better shape now in terms of I can do pull-ups. I was training for a half marathon. I kind of tweaked my knee, but I almost ran a half marathon. Okay. I almost ran a half marathon. So I'm planning on doing that this summer as long as my knee's good. So I'm in better shape. Like I'd probably be better at the challenges. I'm smarter / wiser. I'm funnier now than I used to be. I'm not going to get in a showman's. I actually think I would be a whole different character. So it would be cool to play again, but I'm not getting that invested in it because it doesn't happen for a lot of people. And I feel really bad that people get their hopes up and then you don't get to do it. And I think you have to try to build a life that's as exciting as Survivor.
Love that.
Yeah, that's good.
We have taken up more time than we said we would of you. So I guess we should probably wrap up.
Yes, but you are a joy to talk to, and I feel so much kismet with you about things that have gone in with my life. So it's been real. Thank you for being so open with us and sharing as much as you've shared because I think it can help a lot of people.
Yeah, of course. I'm an open book and I'm a yapper.
That was Andrea Boehlke, and that is the end of our episode. Keetin, what should people do?
Please subscribe, like, comment on our episodes, and make sure you follow us on social media on Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky @Channeling Hallmark.
Also, follow us on Instagram and Letterboxd and everything, where my handle is @DPCashpaw.
And mine is @Keetin Markey.
Except on Letterboxd, where you're just @Keetin.
Because I'm like Madonna or Zendaya.
So true. But thank you for listening, and please don't forget to channel Hallmark in your life.
Stay cozy, y'all. Bye-bye.
Channeling Hallmark is an independently produced podcast and is neither sponsored nor sanctioned by Hallmark or any other entity. Thank you for listening.